All right, we're going to go over a few things during the seminar. We're going to go over how we got started, the things that we do day to day when it comes to running this company. Not really running the company, but the artwork. Some theories and concepts, and how we create the zombies, how we integrate gore, weapons, and pets, the materials that we use, and step by step on how we do the photo-based commissions.
So right now we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the creation of zombie characters and how it all really started and everything like that. Back in 2005 was when I started working for Busch Gardens for Commons Art Shops. At the time, Nick Mitchell was already the assistant manager, and it was a really, really exciting time for them and for me as aspiring caricature artist, because they were really trying to make it kind of an art park and really trying to do something different with caricature and kind of push the envelope more and more. So after about 2 years of working there, just working that kind of caricature muscle more and more, I just felt like they needed something a little bit more than just big noses and little chins and things like that. And I just wanted to spice things up just a little bit more. So as anything else does, kind of started off with conversations just idly at the caricature stand. We would be just sitting around talking, and since it was in Florida at Busch Gardens, like everybody there is like a senior citizen waiting to die, so you got this constant surrounding by death. And it's just so we sit there and we talk, and we're like, okay, so if this dude in a walker suddenly dropped dead and became a zombie, what would you do here at the stand to kind of protect yourself? And so after enough time of that, you just kind of idly go into, well, let's draw each other. So then it's like, well, what do we draw each other as? And how many times can you do the running man and the muscled body and stuff like that? So those kind of conversations seep into the drawing. So we want to do just weird and crazy zombie drawings. Now the fun thing about Busch Gardens is during the time of October, and a lot of other places do this too, is they sort of change around the park. They kick everybody else out and readmit everybody into doing kind of a more Halloween-themed thing. So there's a lot more like haunted houses and scare zones and things like that. So coupled with those kind of new style of drawings and doing this is called Hallow Scream. So everything was a lot more crazier and dark. So it really gave a great platform for this kind of work. So here's some examples of some of my earlier works, really. This is probably one of the very first ones of a fellow employee named Ken Hancock. And like halfway through the drawing, customers were already like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" and wanting to buy one and things like that. So it kind of started this little miniature flood of interest. And after I did that for one season, the next year I decided to go to a horror convention. Pretty much what those are celebrities from different horror movies come together for one weekend, and they sign autographs. There's also vendors there that sell toys, posters, and things like that. So I thought, what if I sold set up a table and started selling prints of my artwork, and I had a little sign on the table that said, I can draw you as a monster or a madman, and basically doing these kind of horror-based drawings. And it went over really, really well, but at the same time I wasn't really able to enjoy myself too much, and the table was really, really, really expensive. So I was like, I don't know if I really want to do it anymore. And several months later, I decided to give my buddy Nick Mitchell here a call and just kind of catch up with him on a few things.
So yeah, Sean gave me a call, and at this point, I was freelance. I wasn't working for Commons anymore. Yeah. So he gave me a call and he started talking about the convention that that was coming up, and this is a convention that he's been going to for a while. I mean, he's been going to it for years with his friends, and it always sounded like a lot of fun. And I've never been to a horror convention before, so I had no idea what to expect. And I know he's worked it before. So he was saying that he wanted to work this one. He was thinking about it. He wasn't really sure if he wanted to or not. But I had nothing going on that weekend, so I was like, well, how about I pay for half, and we'll both go, we'll both draw, and we'll just have a blast. I mean, it doesn't matter if we make money or not. We'll have a good time. So, yeah, we gave it a shot. We went to this convention, and we had a blast. It was super packed and so much fun things there to do. But it was crazy. I mean, we're extremely busy. I mean, people loved the caricatures. I mean, it was to the point where the next morning we would show up and there was a line of people waiting at the booth for us already, which was totally unexpected. I mean, this is something that Sean was just doing for fun, and it was crazy. Yeah, look how busy that was.
Some of them were better than others.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy, and we had a blast, and we decided to team up and try to do other shows and see if we can make this work and see how far we can go with it. Yeah, getting used to drawing the zombies was a bit of a task for me. It is very different. You're removing flesh, you're adding weapons, there's a lot more to think about than just drawing a caricature, just drawing a person. Everything from color palette is totally different. So, but it was still fun. It was new. It really just gave me something to look forward to. Because I mean, to be honest with you, I was burned out drawing caricatures. I've been doing it for years at this point already. So this really revamped it. Now, when it comes to Florida, there's not many shows there, and the ones that we did were extremely slow. I mean, we lost a lot of money doing them. But luckily for us, we had a vacation planned. All right, that's dark. So lucky for us, we had a vacation planned, and we're going to visit Matt Zitman, Stacy Pierce, and Chris Chua. And there were 2 conventions up there that were back to back. So yeah, we went up there, we had a blast, and each convention, they were great. I mean, they loved the zombies as well. We're super busy. And the important part was that almost everybody that sat in our chair would tell us, oh, you're going to be at this show, you're going to be at that show. So we realized that there was a whole market up there that we could do what we wanted to do. So, I mean, this really posed the biggest question in our career pretty much for this. It was, do we leave everything behind in Florida? Family, friends, our careers that we, just whatever we established to do, just throw it all away and just take a chance. So yeah, that's exactly what we did.
It's better in the Northeast because everybody's just sour and disgruntled, and they just love this kind of stuff. So we were just like, clearly this is gonna work.
Yeah, perfect fit.
So yet again, we just decided what we're gonna do. Family and friends, leave it all behind. So yeah, we were talking with a fellow member, ISCA member Ryan Rhodes, and he told us about this house that he had up in Pennsylvania that we can kind of use as just like a squatting grounds until we can kind of move on and things like that. But we were like, okay, great, sweet. So we packed up the moving truck and we drove 18 hours all the way up to Easton, Pennsylvania.
The house, it's a 283-year-old house. It's the oldest house in the area, middle of the woods, creepy. Doesn't look creepy there, but it's creepy.
Great for Halloween parties.
We've had some awesome parties. But
also, like being in Florida, I mean, we're used to flip-flop weather the whole time. If you're not in flip-flops and shorts for Christmas, something's oddly wrong. So being up there, I mean, it definitely was a totally different story. And we also found out about snow. That was a big change for us too. And seasons. Some things were obviously more fun than others, but
it's miserable. It's all white, and it's cold, and there's overcast and death, and everything's dead. Nothing's green anymore.
So pretty much as soon as we got there, we hit the road and took on that majestic fast food fueled life as a gypsy. And man, we just pretty much just went everywhere. Being in Pennsylvania gave us a lot more options to travel. I mean, we've just gone all up and down the East Coast, as far as Houston. Now we're in San Antonio, so that's just pretty cool. It's the farthest west we've really gotten to go.
Yeah, I mean, life on the road, it is fun. We get to do a lot of fun things and see a lot of cool things and eat a lot of gross food, which is the best part. But it is taxing as well. I mean, we are on the road nonstop almost every weekend, traveling to some new place. We hardly have a home life doing this. But yeah, it's just exhausting, to be honest with you. But still, I mean, obviously you can see it's a lot of fun.
We definitely kind of take advantage of some of the places that we go, and just like, oh well, what's cool here, what's local, and things like that. Yes, that is a donut burger.
The most amazing thing you'll ever put in your mouth.
Awesome.
Called
Truck
the
stops.
Luther, right? It's called the Luther, right?
What's that?
It's called the Luther.
I do not know.
Because that's the burger that Luther Vandross used to, he actually created it.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Crazy. Yes, that is Vampire Santa. Got to meet him.
Then you have Kana Hodder there. He has a unique way of saying thank you when you draw him. For those who don't know who he is, he plays Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th movies.
All right. So enough about all that stuff. Now we're going to talk about some of the drawing principles. So before the gore flies and faces look like blood-soaked piñatas, we'll just talk about some of the theories and principles and things that we kind of keep in mind while we're drawing these zombie caricatures.
We draw these zombie caricatures. I mean, the caricature always comes first, the gore will follow next. Zombie elements, they are going to be based on the exaggerations and the likeness that you're going to use. So pretty much what we do, we figure out what's important about that person, what features do we need, how we want to exaggerate, then we destroy everything around it. The easiest thing you can do is lose the likeness by removing too much flesh. So again, you're building the zombie around the caricature. For example, I mean, if they have a big forehead, you have all that surface area to work with. You can blow a hole in it. You can put weapons in it. If they have a tiny chin or something that's not needed, you completely just rip it away and just throw it in the garbage and you don't need it. So everything's based around the caricature itself. So you can't just go around just removing anything you want because it's not going to work.
Here's just a few examples of that. This is a photo-based commission that I had, and once I had these two pictures to work from, which were great because it kind of gave me him smiling and kind of his face a little bit more relaxed. So I kind of got to see kind of how his muscles affected the other features. I got to see some of his teeth and things like that. So it worked for me because I was able to kind of see really what was needed. Although his head shape is very, very important, a lot of times you can remove almost half the face and it still looks like the person, but you make sure that the other half is extremely strong. Some of the features that I realized that were vital to his likeness were everything right around the center. You've got, the way his eyes kind of pull into the center of his face, and his nose, especially his nostrils, flare up and kind of shoot up to the middle of his face as well, leaving so much of that area around his face and his head shape to kind of be a little bit more exposed and to do a lot of other things with. So this is what I did to him. I really tore up pretty much half of that head and left those features in the center really intact, so it still looked like him, even though there's all this crazy flesh removed and torn and more details than you would do to a normal caricature.
All right, this client, he's a photographer, so he wanted to be drawn with a camera somehow. when I looked at his face, I knew the nose had to be there, those squinty eyes, and that huge space between his mouth and nose, that definitely had to be there. He has a big, huge forehead, or a huge head in general. I mean, you have all that surface area to just play with, as long as you still maintain some of the shape. And I see, his chin looks pretty weak, so I decided to just rip that out and slam his camera in his face. So again, keeping the important features that are needed to maintain a likeness and have good, strong exaggeration. And just have fun with the rest. Next up, another fun guy. He wanted to be drawn with his little friend there. And looking at him, I knew I really needed to keep a good face shape, that bottom mass, and how his posture is, how he takes up space and shape. Looking at his mouth and nose, I really liked the way they looked. I knew I needed that for a likeness. But everything else I didn't see as important. So I just, again, destroyed whatever I didn't want.
Oh, wow.
And I figured I took a chance on this one. Because, removing the eyes up is kind of risky. Normally, you would want the eyes in there at least, or whether how small they are or how big they are. It says a lot about a person, but I'm like, maybe I don't need it with this guy. So I removed it, slammed his dog in there, put the glasses and hat on the dog, and I'm like, oh, this works. So I was really happy with this one.
Did he like it?
Oh, I don't know.
He doesn't know.
Not something he's giving his grandchildren.
But probably not.
Underneath the flesh, a zombie's beauty is far from only skin deep. So learning the basic anatomy vastly improves zombie drawings. Knowing all of those bones, the muscle, and everything like that is pretty helpful when we're doing this. Especially when we start tearing things away and knowing which muscles are there. That way they can line up and kind of look a little bit more believable. Anatomy books, charts, models, Google searches, all those kind of things are things that we use and kind of sketch out. Sometimes we'll even just fill up pages of just kind of anatomical studies, just so we can kind of get ourselves more and more familiar with some of those muscles and things like that.
All right, here's Grandpa. All right, let's see. All right, underneath the flesh, of course, is going to be the skull. Again, the skull, you want to maintain that face shape and that exaggeration that you're using. And we're going to go over some of the muscles. I'll be honest, I don't know the names of the muscles. I know what the muscles do and what they look like, and that's good enough, to be honest. So, all right, these muscles here, these are on the forehead, obviously. There's tendons that run all the way to the back of the skull to a similar set of muscles. That gives you the ability to raise your forehead and eyebrows and wrinkle it up, and maybe we can wiggle your ears, possibly. Next set, these muscles wrap around the eyeball, and they give you the ability to blink and squint. These muscles here give you the ability to kind of, frown, give those angry eyebrows, to just push the eyebrows down and forward. These muscles here, they give you the ability to flare your nostrils. And these muscles, along with these right here, they give you the ability to lift your upper lip, to pull it up. The mouth sphincter muscle that gives you the ability to tighten and close your mouth and pucker your lips as well. Circular muscle wraps around the mouth. These next set, they give you the ability to pull your bottom lip down, to frown, to retract the corners of the mouth as well. And this is I'm going to bite your ass in the zombie muscle. Gives you the ability to bite down. Most important muscle for a zombie. And And again, keeping the face shape, knowing where the muscles go in relation to your exaggeration and the features will help you maintain a likeness and a good shape with a zombie. And here's some examples of ones that we have with the show anatomy.
This is a live drawing that I did probably a little over a year ago, and I don't have a picture of the actual client that sat down. This is actually the second go at him. The first one I did was, it definitely had a lot of lacerations and stuff like that, and he came back later on that day and he's like, I want one really, really brutal. So I was like, I want no flesh on it. I'm like, oh, Jesus. So he really did have like these red contacts, these big hoop earrings, and all these piercings, and I'm like, well, obviously that's what this guy's about, so I kind of could get away with certain things like that because he really wanted to put forth all these extra features. So I just had fun with those as well and just kind of removed as much flesh as I could. And this is a good example of being able to kind of show some of that anatomy knowledge and things like that.
Yeah, just another example of the way the cheek, so you can see part of the muscle that wraps around the eye and the muscles that pull the upper lip back and retract the corner of the mouth. The dark areas behind those muscles that you see, there's another set of muscles that give you the ability to puff your cheeks out, There we go.
This is another client as well, and I saw that his eyes were really, really small, but he still had like this large brow, so it left all this open room inside the eyeball socket. And I was like, well, man, that'd be great to show that. So I just basically exposed that skull and just kind of had fun doing that, really.
Another exposed cheek. You can actually see the muscles that I'm talking about that give you the ability to puff out your cheeks. The snake's pushing that out with them. Again, another good example of being able to remove flesh and to destroy things around the important features that you need to maintain their likeness and get a good exaggeration.
We're not going to talk about this part too much, but, weapons are part of it. So, anything that people are going to use to defend themselves against the zombie outbreak and things like that, just have fun with it. And yes, people do ask for that. The main thing you don't want to do is cover up any of the important features or head shapes that are needed for that likeness, just like any of the other lacerations, scars, or holes. Obviously, better areas to do that are the larger areas, such as foreheads, necks, torsos, things like that. Something where there's a lot of surface that you can really just sort of go to town with, really.
Dogs, cats, birds, snakes, stuffed llamas, your mom, they go crazy. When it comes to pets, same thing. Keep in mind the anatomy, how the bones are, the muscles of the animal, so you can remove the flesh and get away with it. And when it comes to the likeness of pets, it's always great to find references of a specific breed that they are. And when it comes to actual pets, get the right stripes and spots that their pet may have. And then you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can find a lot of reference online for different pets and different expressions, have them angry or happy or whatever,
That's definitely one of the big advantages to drawing animals too, is that if it's usually a breed, they all kind of have the same sort of anatomy and look to them. Just make sure that you keep the identifying marks the same. So you don't need too great of references for them because people never send them. So now we're going to talk a little bit about working in the studio. Although a majority of the work is done live, it doesn't leave you a whole lot of time to think about things. So that's why it's so great to work in the studio and work from photos for us, because it's not just a matter of exaggeration. There's a lot of other things to keep in mind in that too. So it gives you a chance to kind of plan things out, take our time, try out new things. We have an expo board full of like ideas of things that we want to do, and just like, oh, it'd be fun to just turn somebody's head into like a zombie shish kebab or put somebody in a bear trap. We haven't done those, but those are part of the things that we want to do. The other thing too is we have control over the lighting, because some of the events, as we all have worked events, they have crappy lighting sometimes. So we can work there, we can take better photos and things like that.
All right, next we're going to talk to you about tools of the trade, all the materials that we use to create the zombies.
So some of the hardware that we use. Coal erase, this is a big preference, especially for me. I'm a big fan of coal erase. It's made by Prismacolor. It's basically colored pencils with erasers. And they come in all different colors, just like colored pencils do. Just not a big fan of graphite. But as we were talking about before, keeping the likeness, the caricature, and then adding zombie elements, coal erase is really helpful for me to kind of like separate those processes, so that I'm able to kind of like do the caricature and then see what areas I can remove, and do that in a different color, and sort of plan things out, and utilize the size of the paper, and design things a little bit better. Here's some of the examples of some of the sketches that him and I have done when we're going into some of the commissioned work. So as you can see, they're different colors, and we're just seeing what's taking away, what's not, and kind of plan things out.
All right, as far as inking goes, we use Copic markers. They're great because you can really take your time with these markers. They really don't bleed that much at all. It's a nice brush tip, so you're able to get nice thick to thin variances. And you can change the tips out and replace them. You can refill them as well, so they last you a long time. Here's some examples of some of the black and whites that we've done. Like I said, again, great line variants and super clean. Just really take your time and get really detailed with these markers.
What's really funny is just as we talked about earlier about like in the anatomy and all these things. I mean, it's very formulaic for us when we go into this. Is we're looking at these things kind of sequentially, just being like, okay, we can do this, we can not use this, and add and remove these different things. So really, like when we go into it, we're just thinking about that. That's really all we're doing, is just trying to retain that likeness and trying to make all this damage look believable. So it's kind of odd, like we'll be drawing people like, oh my God, you guys must be sick and weirdos, and like, just thinking that we're these really deranged people, and we're just like, no, it's, go home and watch cartoons. I mean, we're not anything that crazy. But it's funny because when I did this kind of collection of these black and whites, and seeing them kind of like as a small little gallery, I was like, holy shit, these people are right. This is sick. This is weird.
For coloring, we use the foam pads. I know most of you are familiar with them. You pretty much slide them underneath your bleach sheet when you're coloring, and it leaves a really nice, smooth texture. As far as the color goes, we use Prismacolor art sticks. A lot of people in Commons use them, so I know a lot of you do use these on a regular basis. The beauty about them are they're wax-based, but there's not an excess amount of wax, so you still get that nice, rich, opaque color that really pops.
After black and white, certain things that we like to do is really just kind of get the lighting and figure out where our shadows are and things like that. Because I learned in Caricatures that if you're able to establish the shadows and the lighting, you can color people almost any color you want. I've colored people purple and green as a regular caricature and sold them just because it looked believable enough to them. So that's why going into zombies, it wasn't that big of a stretch for me. After I kind of figured out where my shadows are going to be, then I sort of figure out like the irritation of the skin and things like that. Like where all these cuts are and see all those bruising and things like that. And the reason why I start off with warmer colors is because after I do that, then I go into sort of more bruising around the eyes and the blue. And this is a dark indigo blue, so it really helps kind of emphasize that lighting a little bit more. Things are cooled down, and it can really, really affect all of those warm, intense colors that you just put on. So I put those on first so I kind of can work around them so that those pinks really stay vibrant, especially complementary to the blue. Kind of helps pop things out a little bit. After that, then we do the blood. The reason why we do blood later on is because with the Copic, it does have a certain amount of like a lower opacity. So if we're able to get all these variations of the skin, the Copic can go right over it and kind of blend all that in, and it looks natural as if it was some sort of liquid dripping down the skin. And even though it's like, oh, blood, fiesta, craziness, you know, we're just thinking about like how this blood would drip down these forms of the face and these features and things like that. So we're really, you know, just thinking about all that boring crap the entire time. Then we kind of move on to the eyes. We start off usually with a shadow area, just kind of darkening that up and establishing where those shadows are cast from the lids. Sort of fill in the eye color. Now he doesn't have any crazy boldness to his eyes. His eyes are just this like really intense blue, so we really didn't have to do any crazy gradations or anything like that with it. And you can at this point choose whether or not you want to work around your highlight or not. Typically in the live sketch, I will work around my highlight. I will predetermine where I'm going to put that highlight, and I will put my grays around that, just so that I don't have to worry about digging out my paint marker. Like I said, that's more for a studio kind of piece. Some more irritation around the eyes. Sometimes you can go a little bit crazier with them, sometimes you can't. But he had these really, really big eyes, so we had a little bit more surface to kind of play around with that and give it a little bit more irritation and strengthen that whole zombie concept a little bit further. So, yep, pop in a few highlights, things like that with the paint marker. So, clothes, all that stuff, that's all repetition and things like that. But that's pretty much our finished piece. So we just kind of repeated that process over and over again. So here's a few more examples of some of the process, just in general, of what we go with. So start off with the picture and then do kind of a quick sketch on that. Once I figure out where I want things, scan it all up, move on to the black and white stage. So make sure everything looks right, the lines are where I want it to be, the right thickness, and repeat all that process for the color. Yet again, another thing where this one's a little bit more complicated because they want their dogs and things like that to be in there too. So it's like, all right, well, I've got 4 people to fill up in this page. So then I just do some sketches just to kind of get their character, maybe show a little bit of you know, some attitude or you know whatever it's going to be. The great thing about it is I just work with typical 8.5 by 11 paper and just kind of sketch it out and just, you know, have fun with it and free, because then I can scan that into the computer and arrange it the way that I want to. So after that, then I add in all the zombie elements and figure out what weapons I want to use and figure out kind of a great sort of balance and in composition. Moving on to the black and white, and then of course color.
All right.
again, just same steps. Now, if you don't use Photoshop at all, or don't have access to a scanner, majority of the time I do things a little different. I have a projector, so I'll do the same sketch, just like Sean does. I'll sketch it out, figure out what I want, when I'm happy with it. I'll throw it up into a projector and then project it directly on the paper I'm going to use. And then I'll just trace the line drawing that way, and I can position them how I want, just moving the projector around. So that's another way that you can do it. Then I'll ink it in, of course, and then color.
I believe they asked for a squid, right?
Yeah. This was a tattoo artist. His wife wanted the commission done for him, for a gift for him, and he was a tattoo artist. So I was able to have fun and put the machine poking his eyeball out, and he wanted a squid in there. So I just made it pretty much underwater scene. Just threw some fish in her hair, and I just put barnacles everywhere and had a blast. It was a fun sketch.
That brings up an interesting point too, is that a lot of people, do I get to pick anything? And typically at live events, we say, yeah, you get to pick black and white or color. That's it. Because a lot of times they'll want crazy stuff like, oh, I want a guitar in my head. So eventually, I'm just instantly thinking, okay, now how am I going to draw those strings back going in place and pickups and what kind of guitar? You know what? Sit down. You're just going to get whatever I draw you. And because I just don't have that kind of time in the live events because they're there for whatever it is. So they don't want to spend all day at our booth. So as it is right now, our time frame is somewhere around 25 on average for a color.
Yeah.
So, that's already a big chunk of time. And if you've already been waiting in line, that's even more. So we typically don't take requests on live drawings. But for commissions, we'll fit things in there. We want to do something different too, and we have the time to do it.
Yeah, and it's always good to hear them out, at least hear their idea first. It could be something that you can do real fast, but for the most part, yeah, just tell them no. No, that's not happening. Sketch first, and then inked in, and then color.
You guys are getting the lines with that Copic like that?
It's all Copic, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
those are really nice lines.
All right. This is one, I don't know if you're familiar with Serena Rose or Enigma. They have a freak show or sideshow that they do at conventions. They were a lot of fun to draw. My first idea was to have her sewn into his back and then have her moving him around like a puppet that would be connected by muscle tissue from arm to arm. But I realized that, that she might not run the show. He might get offended, being controlled like a puppet. I really didn't know them that well, so I decided to stick with what they do. So that's why I incorporated the chainsaw and the apple, because they do part of their act where they blindfold each other and they put apples in each other's mouths and they lean in for a kiss with a running chainsaw in between them.
The life we live.
Yeah.
How big are the finished sizes here then?
These are the same thing that this 12
11
by
by 14.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah, normal sheet of paper. And he's covered in puzzle pieces from head to toe. So that was that took
Tattooed.
tattoos. That took a little while to draw up, especially because he has certain pieces that are different. Like he has a triangle on his forehead, and I don't even know how I caught that looking at the photo reference, but I did. But once you figure out a good pattern, it's pretty easy to finish up. And here's the color. Again, blood splatter, having fun with it, all the elements of their show, and yeah, they loved it.
So here's just a few more examples we'd like to show of just different stuff that we've done, things that we've kind of had fun with. This one's actually a collaboration that we did. The one that you saw earlier, we did a passing back and forth, so it was definitely our drawings from start to finish in a collaboration. This one, we actually, due to time and what our comfort zone at the time was, Nick drew the dogs in there, and then I drew the people in there. So we kind of were able to mix match the styles a little bit, even though they're very similar. It was cool to get a little bit of a different point of view. Here's another one that I did. Just yet again, having these zombies kind of open things up to have like a little bit cooler concepts. So they owned a ice cream parlor. I have no idea where, but I was like, well, what do I do with ice cream and zombies? So I just kind of had fun with this. Like, you just think about all these things that go into an ice cream shop, or what you think about for ice cream, and just make them disgusting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had fun with this kid. I mean, he had braces, did the barbed wire and stuff. And in the photograph, it was set up like that. I mean, there was a real dark room, a window in the background. So I decided to just play with it, and then started adding the highlights, like streaking through the space and stuff, which had a cool texture in the background. But yeah, he had a huge smile, so it was pretty cool to work with. Not often you see a zombie smiling.
As we mentioned before, people love their pets, especially pug owners. This is just an example of basically people that want to get just their pets done. So, at that point, you kind of think about like, well, what kind of trouble can, a pug get into? So, just kind of keep weapons like that more to scale and things like that. So the screwdriver seemed to be a natural fit of things. And, like you said, just keeping the color, their identifying marks the same, and you can just kind of go to town with them, really.
This client was a vampire. She was into Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm a real big fan of vampires. So why she was getting a zombie, I'm not sure. So I decided, why not just kill her with 1,000,000 stakes? So I just kind of went a little overboard with it, just kept stabbing her over and over again. And I had to get the nose, of course, when the nose is huge. Like I said, and again, huge surface area. It doesn't interfere with her likeness of the nose at all. It's tucked behind the actual shape, but you're still able to pierce it and have fun because it's so huge.
Good perspective exercise, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one's another collaboration that we did where we were both back and forth on it. And they had their family dog and they had a baby, and I was like, well, wouldn't it be stupid just to have like the dog and the baby down at the bottom and the parents up at the top, and sort of like a stuffy, regular family caricature. And so I was like, well, let's just do something fun. Like what kind of abuse or trouble would a baby get themselves into? And started thinking about like what that would be. And anybody that's had kids, which we don't, but we've seen enough of them get into trouble. They just crawl around everywhere and things like that. So we're like, well, they crawl around in playgrounds and boxes, and just kind of came up with the concept of like, let's just take a pipe and run it through everybody as if it was a fun slide. Like, just have fun with it. So that's kind of what we decided to do. And
yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. I mean, really went more cartoony, and it just, I don't know, it was a good time all the way around.
this one you all may know. Uncle Lot. So that was just a lot of fun, and get to do something for my buddy.
Just, there you go. Just another example. Zombies, dead people, big teeth.
This one's a little bit more of my favorite one, just because it's that kind of fun, bubbly, cartoony look with just this morbid kind of brutality. Yet again, wanting their dogs and what would they get into. I'm sure they'd probably find some severed hand walking around and carrying that around like a Pokemon toy or whatever. So just had fun with it.
This guy was kind of cool because, like, no matter which way I drew him, he looked like a cartoon. I could never draw this guy serious or detailed because he looked like a cartoon normally or naturally. And it was fun, little shotgun barrel and blowing the brains out. Fun with movement and stuff. And yeah.
And since us here at Zombie Caricatures, we are not afraid of shameful promotion, we got a book coming out. So,
Plus pages.
we've got tutorials in there, just kind of similar to what we just gave as well.
Yeah, a few collaboration sketches that we had fun together and be able to pass it back and forth and get creative with.
So also we'll have sketchbook pages. There are sketches just like you saw before, but there's also going to be a bunch of just fun stuff, just like fun ideas that we've kind of been toying around with, and we don't have to worry about the likeness. So they're just going to be kind of fun, loose things where you don't have to worry about likeness as well. So.
All right, yeah, and we're going to be doing Kickstarter.com.
For those of you who don't know about Kickstarter, it's just a way of people to get kind of their dreams made into reality. So anybody that's done any kind of publication work knows that it's a lot of money to get these books like published and ready to go. So we're going to use Kickstarter. That's going to be what we're going to do for pre-sales and things like that. But it also gives us a really good opportunity because there's so much like cool little sketches and other little things that we want to add to the book. And it'll kind of be a good way of giving that to people that want to get something like that. So look forward to that coming out.
Yeah, this winter.
When does your
And if
Kickstarter
you're
campaign
on,
start?
I'm sorry?
When does the Kickstarter campaign start?
We're still working on the book. So, I mean, once we have that pretty much finished, then we'll be able to do Kickstarter and definitely contact everyone. I mean, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, also on the forum, and through the ISCA. So, I mean, you guys will definitely hear about it already.
Yeah, we'll blow it up. So
Yeah.
if you got your ears to the ground in some kind of social media, you'll know about it. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting that all out, and there's going to be a whole lot more work and a lot more fun things for everybody to see. So yeah.